Hi, I'm Steph.
I'm Stephanie.
And as you can see, we have a lot of paddles amongst us.
Steph's been badgering me to try out all of her paddles and do a review video. We do have a collection of both inexpensive and more expensive paddles here to try.
And my mom's here with us. We realized that this is too many paddles to have on two boats. So my mom is going to have all the paddles with her, and she is going to give us each a different paddle, and we're going to try them out. We're going to figure out how they feel in the water, kind of what we feel about the weight, and then at the end we're going to decide the best out of the budget paddles and the best out of the higher end paddles. So let's go paddling.
So I'm going to go over my collection of personal paddles. These all belong to me. This is not the first paddle I got. This was the backup paddle I got. This is an Airhead. I bought this at Play It Again Sports for $15 maybe. Just thinking I need a paddle to have in case I lose mine. You know, just a little button attachment on the fairing. So nothing special, kind of heavy, but it's not a bad paddle.
It actually is not bad. It glides pretty well in the water. It definitely feels like a heavy paddle, but not unmanageable. So like I could definitely paddle with this. You know, it feels like a rental paddle, so like a paddle you would get from a rental place, but a little bit higher quality, because typically rental paddles are kind of damaged because they've been used so much. But it has a nice glide in the water. I wouldn't be upset having to use this paddle.
It's probably the heaviest paddle that we have out here today. It's also kind of loose right here. But aside from that, it's got a really nice stiff paddle blade. I wouldn't want to go for a long trip with this. This is my backup paddle, and I think that I could probably handle this without getting too fatigued.
First paddle up is this one right here from Lifetime. And this one came with a inexpensive hardshell kayak that we purchased, you know, a little less than a year ago. And it just has a push button right here to clasp it together. So we'll see how this free paddle with a kayak does.
First thing I notice about it is that it is made out of plastic and metal. I don't know if that's aluminum. Probably not. It's a little heavy. It's got really big water drip rings, which is nice. It's not a very smooth glide through the water though. It's a nice, not very windy day, so great day to actually try out some paddles. It's got a lot of bend in the paddle, which I don't really like. Good backup paddle, but I wouldn't use it as a primary paddle.
My first impressions is it's really light, which is so surprising for a free paddle. It's nice and light. There's not really much curvature to the paddle itself, so it does tend to get a little bit more water kind of dripping. But overall, it's a pretty light paddle. It's not super smooth in the water. It's not a paddle I want to use for an extended amount of time, but if it was the only paddle I had, or it was an extra paddle just in case something happened to my main paddle, I think it'd be a fine paddle. If I got this paddle free and this was the only paddle I had, I wouldn't rush out to get a new paddle because it's definitely not bad. The water is a little annoying. It actually didn't come with these drip rings, and so I bought these extra, which really helped because of how much it drips.
The base model bending branches, this actually came with my husband's kayak, which we bought off of Craigslist. So we didn't actually pay anything for this paddle, but it retails for about $70. It's actually a pretty decent paddle. It's got good reviews.
My first impression is it's heavy. I grabbed it and it was very heavy feeling. This is not something I could use for an extended amount of time. I definitely already can tell that. It definitely has the, where you put your hand, it has a little bit of it's less round, it's more like kind of oval shape, which the more expensive bending branches paddles have as well. So that is nice. I feel like it's a little bit easier to grip. So the grip is nice on this, but it's way too heavy. I definitely couldn't use this for much time. Like it almost feels like I'm like lifting weights using this. The glide in the water is not too bad. It definitely has some curvature to the blade itself, but the blade also seems a little small. It doesn't seem to drip as much as some of the others, but This is definitely not a paddle I would want to use.
I like this paddle. I've used it several times. It's got a nice, good, solid grip right here. It's actually got grips on it, which are nice. It does get really hot, I've noticed, in the summer. This is not a bad paddle. It's a little heavier. It's not as heavy as the last one, but it's made out of aluminum and plastic. There's not as much bend, although this is a plastic paddle, but it's a nice entry-level paddle. This is the first paddle that I got. It's a Magellan. I got it from Academy Sports right after I bought my first kayak because it matches, it's blue. It was about $35. I specifically picked it out because I think it's really pretty. I didn't really know a whole lot about paddles at the time.
I will say it is pretty. I do like that it's clear. The paddle itself is clear. First impression was it's a little heavy. It's not as heavy as the bending branches, but it's a little heavy. And the shaft is kind of is metal, so I could see this being hot really easily in the summertime. And the paddle blade shape is a little odd to me. It's just I don't know, it just looks a little different than some of the other paddles, so I feel like you might not be able to get as much water. It's probably fine if you're just very casually kayaking, but I can see myself getting tired really easily using this paddle because it's a little bit heavier. It glides in the water okay. I wouldn't say it's like stellar.
It looks beat up because, well, I used it for years before I got another paddle. It is a different shaped blade than the rest of them. I think this is probably a more for an even lower angle. It's a comfortable paddle for the price range. After using some of the higher end ones, it's not quite as comfortable, but I do like this paddle. I think you could probably go a long distance with it. And this is my expensive Bending Branches nice paddle that I bought. It's lightweight. This is a carbon and fiberglass paddle. This was actually a factory blemish. It's a cosmetic blemish. I can't find where it's actually blemished. You'd have to really search. But this was between $300 and $400 with a little bit of a discount for it being a blemish. This is my everyday one that I use. It's adjustable in length. You can, make it longer or shorter. Since I have a collection of boats, I wanted something that I could change the length based on what I needed.
Okay, so now I have Stephanie's Bending Branches paddle, and oh, my first impression was it's light. Oh, this is nice. This glides so effortlessly in the water. Oh my gosh, this is like a pleasure to use. This is nice. Yeah, and it has, so Bending Branches, where you put your hands, kind of where you're supposed to put your hands, they have like, it's like more smushed down. It's more like oval shape, I guess, instead of round. So it gives a little nice area for your hand. I don't feel like I would need gloves or anything special with this paddle because it's nice. Really smooth in the water, really easy to paddle. I mean, you could paddle with this all day long, not get tired. And that really shows you the difference in price. When you get higher up in price with paddles, they become lighter and just easier to paddle with and allow you to paddle for longer periods of time.
This is my Bending Branches. This is my primary paddle. This is my baby. It's beautiful, as you can tell. It matches my boat. So aesthetically, it's my favorite. Well, it's probably my favorite. It's got a little bit of a different shape. So it feels really natural in my hand. I really like the grip. It glides through the water really well. And I like to increase the length when I'm using it in my canoe because I have farther to go to reach. Intentionally bought this one after doing a lot of research. I narrowed it down to this one because of how pretty it is, and I was able to get a little bit of a discount.
My next paddle, getting more pricey, is this Bending Branches paddle, and I got this just because I thought it was really cute because it's wood. This is wood right here, which is an interesting idea for a paddle, but I love working with wood, so I thought it would be cool to have a wood paddle. This one also is adjustable. It's closed right now, but the fairing can be adjusted here, and this one was right under $400, I believe.
Okay, perfect. Airhead, I can take a punch. Yeah. All right, I'm really excited about trying this one out. I will say the blades glide through the water so well on this, and it's a wooden blade. I really, really like this. It's got this protective edge, so it takes a beating a little bit better. It's the same style. You can actually increase this in length, just like my primary paddle. But this is a nice paddle. If you're looking for something that you won't get fatigued while on a long trip, this is a good one.
And I will say it's definitely heavier than the last Bending Branches paddle that Stephanie has. I could definitely feel a difference in the water. Compared, since I just used her paddle, it doesn't glide as smoothly in the water as hers did. So this one, it definitely glides in the water. It's not an issue, but you can definitely feel more weight, and it's a little bit more clunkier, probably because it's wood, although it's still very, very light. It has a nice pull in the water. It's still a comfortable paddle to use. It has that kind of like place to put your hand and a nice holding area. This one right here, this is by the company Aqua, and this, you might notice, looks a little strange. So this is a bent shaft paddle. Right after I bought this paddle, actually, I learned that I have paddler's elbow, and so I was having pain in my elbow from paddling so much, so that's why I got this bent shaft paddle. And this one was right under $500, so the most expensive paddle, but this has really helped me with my paddling injury get better and be able to paddle without pain. So we'll see how this one stacks up with all of these straight shaft paddles. Okay, so this is Steph's primary paddle that she uses. This is an Aqua Whiskey. It's a bent shaft paddle, which I haven't used before. It's a lightweight paddle. It gives you a more, I guess, natural, grip. And it is also a higher angle blade, meaning that it's designed to go in at a little bit of a higher angle, so you get a little bit more power. This is probably one of the reasons why she tends to go a little faster than me. Also, she's in a lighter boat most days. This is a fast paddle. This is actually not bad at all. It's comfortable. I don't really like the higher angle because I won't say I'm a more laid back person, but I have a more laid back style of paddling than Steph does, I think. But I like this. This would be really good if you were doing, maybe not whitewater rafting, but more energetic rivers with a little bit more of a current. But yeah, this is nice. It's really lightweight. This might actually be the lightest weight paddle out of the group. It does have a comfortable grip. I do like this paddle a lot. So this is these are the paddles that we've already tested. So Mom, what are you thinking about being our best girl here?
Well, I was just saying I didn't think I was going to get much of a workout, but it's really kind of fun. It's been fun to try the different paddles because you didn't expect that. I get to review them as well.
I know. So at the end, we'll get your opinion too of what you think. Don't tell us yet. This one, what can I say about this paddle? It's my everyday paddle. I love this paddle. It glides effortlessly in the water. This one is, it's hard to compare to a straight shaft paddle because it has specific reasons that it's bent shaft. A bent shaft paddle is usually good for someone that has wrist or elbow issues, which is what I have, which is why I use this paddle. And it's nice because you can put your hands in different areas, and so you can change up the angle so your elbow is not always getting the same kind of motion, and it basically the angle helps your elbow be in a more natural position than kind of in a straight area. So this one just feels almost like part of me when I use it because I use it all the time. It's very effortless in the water. It's very light. I like this paddle, obviously. Next paddle is this one by Oru Kayak, and this one I paid $100 for. And this one has an adjustable fairing right here, so I can pull this apart and adjust the length of it depending on the kayak that I'm using.
It's not a bad paddle. This feels about like the Airhead, I think. And the shape of the blade is a little bit more like my Magellan, so I kind of like the way it glides through the water. Yeah, this isn't a bad paddle at all. A little heavy.
This is my first paddle that I ever used that I bought. This was a $100 paddle. This is my Oru paddle. I haven't used it in a while actually because I've, had the other paddles. My first impression is it's crazy heavy. Oh my gosh, this is so heavy. I never thought it was heavy before. This really is very comparable to Stephanie's blue paddle, Magellan paddle. In the feel of it, this feels very heavy. It feels like something I wouldn't want to paddle with for a long time, which now I'm thinking, now I know, I kind of think I know why I got paddler's elbow, because this is the paddle that I was using for most of last year. And basically, this is the paddle I was using for the whole time that I got my paddler's elbow. So that's interesting that I hadn't really put that together. But the weight of this, I think, really contributed to that injury that I had. It glides okay in the water. I would say this is pretty much everything I said about Stephanie's Magellan paddle is the same I'd say about this. It's not something I'd want to kayak with for an extended amount of time, for sure. It's really heavy. I think it's a good beginner paddle, but it's so much heavier than even the free lifetime paddle. Yeah, this is definitely not a paddle I'd want to use very much, which is so surprising because I used it for so long. The metal here is not bad, but I usually, when I was using it before, I had grips on it, which really helped. But yeah, this would not be my go-to paddle anymore. Next is this Oru Kayak Carbon paddle, and this is actually my mom's paddle, and this one was $300, and it also has an adjustable fairing here, so you can adjust the length of it. One nice thing about the Oru paddles is they break into 4 sections, both the this one right here and the carbon paddle. So this is great if you are short on space. They take up less space. They're also great for travel. You can get other paddles that break into 4 sections, but the Oru ones all break into 4 sections because Oru's whole thing is, taking up less space. That's why they have the folding kayaks as well.
You can definitely tell a difference in the weight. This is a nice lightweight paddle. And instead of fiberglass blades, it actually has the same material as the shaft as the blade, so that will give it a little bit of strength. Not a bad paddle, but it's not my favorite.
First impression is it's so much lighter than the Oru paddle that I just used. The one thing about it is I feel like it has a little bit of flutter in the water. And it's probably because it's so light, but I don't really get that with the other light paddles. So I'm not sure if it's kind of the design of it. This is more of a casual paddle. It's not necessarily for like a high stroke paddle. So if you try to do a high stroke, you get a little bit of flutter, I notice. It's nice. I would definitely use this. I would never say no to this paddle. I probably should take the grips, not use the grips. Here we go. Because I didn't use grips on the other ones. I don't feel like I would need to use grips typically with it compared like with the other paddles. It's just nice to have the grips, but it feels good. Okay, so we just tested all the paddles, and that was a lot of paddles, but it was actually really fun, I thought.
That was a lot of fun. That was interesting, enlightening.
Yes, so I think we should pick our favorite budget paddle and our favorite higher end paddle. Okay, so let's start with budget paddles. So for me, I think my favorite budget paddle was the Airhead.
Mine too. It's not a bad paddle. It's a $15 paddle. Not bad.
Not bad at all, yeah. I think my least favorite paddle out of all of them was the Bending Branches Whisper.
Really?
I thought it was so heavy.
It is heavy.
So heavy.
I thought the Lifetime was my least favorite out of all of them. And it's heavier, maybe.
Oh, the Lifetime and the Bending Branches?
Yeah, I think it was heavier.
Oh, I think the Lifetime's really light, but it gets you really wet.
It gets you wet.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of bend. I just didn't like it at all.
Okay, interesting. Okay, what is your favorite of the most expensive paddles?
Either my Bending Branches Angler Pro or the Navigator, the wooden one. The Navigator is smoother through the water. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Very quiet.
So I will say my favorite paddle out of all of the paddles, I can't believe I'm saying it, but it is Stephanie's paddle, the Bending Branches paddle.
Nice paddle.
Yeah, it was a great paddle, especially for the straight shaft. Like for me, it's hard to say because I really need a bent shaft paddle. So my everyday paddle is definitely my go-to. But if I'm talking about the lightest, smoothest on the water, I would say hers was the one to go with. We didn't realize, but my mom got to try all the paddles too, as she was our best girl holding all the paddles. So we're gonna go find out from her what her favorite was too. Okay, Mom, so you got to try all these paddles out as well. What was your favorite budget paddle?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit higher end on the budget paddles, and I'm going to say this one because I absolutely would not be able to use any of those less expensive. They're just too heavy and they don't glide, and they're just not for me. And I'm going to have to go with Steph. I think my favorite was this one. It's so lightweight. It glides through the water. It's just amazing. But I would use, this is probably my second, third. It's really a tough between this one and that one because they're very much the same, but that one edges out just because it's a little bit lighter. But if I was doing any long kayaking, I would take these two, or this one and that one, because this uses a different set of muscles, and because of my physical fitness, I need to be able to relax during a longer kayaking, and I could use this, swap off and use this, and then it gives those muscles a chance to rest. So I would use two. But for every day, I'll stick with this, although I may have to get one of those. Birthday's coming up.
And it comes in different colors.
Oh.
All right, well, I hope you got some more paddle knowledge from this. We sure did, about all of our paddles. So thanks for joining and have a great day.